Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how to repair a leaking wheel seal on a Chevrolet Silverado and Tahoe or a GMC Yukon and Sierra. Now this is my cousin's vehicle, so if we do it halfway it's okay. I'm just playing. Make sure to check out his channel. He does amazing things with tumblers and golf carts and things in the house. It's crazy what he can do. Make sure to check out his channel, Fintertainment. I'll put it in the description below. First thing we want to do is go ahead and remove our calipers. Now, some of these vehicles don't come with rotors and calipers. Some of them will have a drum. If you have a drum, it's a whole lot easier. You just slide the drum off. If you have a caliper, a rotor, you got to take the caliper off. There's two 18mm bolts on the back. Let's go ahead and take them off. Once we got the caliper bolts out, let's go ahead and slide our caliper off. Set it on top of your springs here, or your leaf springs, just like that. All right, let's go ahead and slide the rotor off. All you gotta do is come behind it. Make sure it's not hot. If it's hot, let it cool down before you touch it. These things can get extremely hot and burn you. I don't want anybody to get hurt, so make sure it's cool. This has been sitting a while. I'm gonna go ahead and grab it. Slide it off. Now this is the same for both sides, the right side and the left side. I'm just going to show you on the right side. I'm actually going to do both sides, but I'm just going to show you the right side. Now before we go any further with this job, what I want to talk about is the brakes. Anytime you take brakes loose on a vehicle, when you put it all back together and you get it on the ground, pump the brakes. It's the most important part of this job. The brakes are the most important part of a vehicle. I don't care how fast you can go if you cannot stop. So once you get the vehicle on the ground, I recommend taking the keys and putting them away from the vehicle so that you'll remember when the keys are not in the ignition to pump the brakes. Pump the brakes, pump the brakes, pump the brakes. Please pump the brakes. I don't want anybody getting hurt. And if you put these brakes on and you go to drive off, before you have pumped them, you will not have brakes and somebody could get hurt, and that's not what we want. So please pump the brakes. All right, now that we've talked about the brakes, we're going to go ahead and remove our cover to drain the fluid so we can get access to the bolts on the inside of the cover so we can take the axles out. Boy, this is the quietest gun you've ever heard. All right, now that we got all of our bolts out, except for this top one, I got it just a little loose. And the reason for that is I'm gonna go ahead and separate the cover from the housing. And with that bolt up there, it'll hold it so it won't get everywhere. Just like that. Love the smell of rear end fluid in the morning. My jokes are terrible, I know. All right, so we've let that drain just a little bit. Let's go ahead and remove the last nut. All right, so what we have here is the rear differential. What we want to do is we want to take this 8mm out right here. Now, just a suggestion, you want to use a 6.8mm socket on this. If you use a 12-point socket, there's a good chance with as tight as it is, it will not come out, it'll ring off, and you will have a problem. Use an 8-point socket and you won't have an issue. I'll take that, put it on here, turn it out. Once it starts coming, it's no problem. I feel like that was a "that's what she said" joke, but I missed it. So, go ahead and take this out. Once you get that out, slide the bolt out. Then you got the pinion bolt, which is this bolt right here in the middle. Go ahead and push it from the back, and it'll slide out. All right, so now let me talk to you about what we've done. We've pulled that pinion shaft out right there, and what that'll do is it'll free up our spider gears on the inside. So we're going to want to twist the pinion gear back here, but we're also going to want to keep our spider gears in line, which I know that sounds complicated, but it's not. It's really quite simple. You can even put your finger in here in the hole and just hold it there while you turn the rear end, and it'll keep it there, or you can just turn it a little bit. Keep watch on it, and if it decides to turn, you can take your axle and just turn your axle a little bit, and it'll line them back up, okay? And then turn it back down. Like I said, you keep your finger in there if you want. And what we want to do is we want to gain access to this side of the pinion gear, or pinion assembly, differential assembly, because this is how we're going to take the axles out. What we're going to do is we're going to slide the axles in, and when we slide them in, when we push them in, now that that pinion shaft's out, there's 2 C-lockers in there, just some retainers, and what we're going to do is take a little magnet, stick in there, and slide them out. It's really quite simple. I'm going to show you how to do it. All right, so if you look right here on the right side, like I said, we're going to take this right side out. You can actually see the little C right here. I'm going to push the axle in. A lot of times it will not just slide in like that. It didn't slide in. Now my light's going everywhere. And the reason it didn't slide in is because this T-bar here is actually in the way a little bit. So we're going to slide it out with our finger and push in. Just like that. And now you can see this little C retainer right here. I'm going to slide it. You see it right there? We're going to take that out. So the way we're going to take that out is we're going to roll it around until the C is towards the back of the, or the front of the car, pointing this way. And we're going to roll it around, and we're going to take our magnet, and we're just going to slide it out. So we're going to roll it around just like that. Take a magnet, slide in there, and it'll slide right out, just like that. Really quite simple. I mean, there's really nothing to it. What you don't want to do is twist the axle to try to get that thing to turn around. Just roll it with your fingers. It'll roll right out. All right, once we got that done, we're going to go ahead and do the hardest part of this whole job and remove the axle. I know that sounds bad, but it's really quite simple. All you're going to do, slide it right out, just like that. Take you a rag, grab on the bottom side of it, and slide it out just like that, just so it don't get stuff all over your floor or whatever, but it comes right out, just like that. All right, now what we're going to do is take a chisel, or whatever, a little screwdriver or whatever you like. I like to use these little chisels. They work so much better than the big chisels. And just take, and what you want to do is just get it off the edge, the wheel seal off a little bit. Just enough. You actually don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can take the tool and just come in there and grab it and pull it out. This way, just seems to make it easier for me. Just like that. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, I have a tool for putting these in. You don't have to use the tool. You can stick it on there and hammer it in if you want to. I use the tool, to be honest with you, just to get it started, and then I seat it the rest of the way with a hammer. But I'm just gonna take the tool. Like I said, just to get it started, sometimes it kicks out. Just like that. And pops all the way out on you. If it does that, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Gosh, dog, wow. Make sure it's seated all the way across, just like that. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to install the axle. What I don't want you to do is be twisting and turning on the axle when you're sticking it in, because you don't want those spider gears to get too crazy in there. I mean, if they do, you can always put them back. It's just a little bit of a headache, and you don't have to go through it if you do this right. So I'm going to show you the right way to do it. Go ahead and take the axle shaft. Go ahead and stick it in. Way. Now it's flined on the other end, plus the axle shaft sticking down, so you're going to have to tilt up on it to slide it in. Once it's in, you just want to barely twist it in and out, just barely, until you find the grooves, and then slide it all the way in. Just like that. All right, now that the axle's in, you'll notice I can't put the little C-clip retainer in there because there's not enough room. And this is going to be a little bit of a challenge when I can't see it. But what you can do is you can grab the axle, put your finger in the hole on the top or the bottom, pull in just a little bit more. Let me see, it's not there. If that doesn't work, take your little screwdriver, stick in, whoop, and throw your screwdriver just like that. That's always good. Just like that, all right? And it's all the way in the middle. Now, I'm not going to do a retake or anything like that. I don't do that on these jobs. I like for people to see what actually happens and how I screw up. So, now that that's in, we're going to go ahead and take our C, stick it in there with our fingers. We're going to pull out on the axle shaft. And see, now it's in, just like that. Once that's in, we're going to go ahead and turn our axle. Like I said, keep your finger in there to keep the spider gear straight. Just like that. Might have to move the axles just a little bit to get that to line up. Just like that. And once we have it lined up, we're going to take our pinion shaft here. And what we're going to do is we're going to stick it in. It's got the bolt hole on this side, which our bolt goes through right there. And we're going to stick it through. Now, if it isn't lined up just like that, you might have to move your axles just a little bit, like just rock it back and forth just to get it to go through. Line it up, and push it in, just like that. Once it goes in, we're going to take our bolt and line it up. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bolt back out, I'm going to dry it off with some brake cleaner, and then I'm going to put some Loctite on it, and I'm going to put it back in. Now, you're supposed to replace this bolt. It's actually on a back order right now for us, so that's why I'm not replacing it. But if you want to, go ahead and replace this bolt. That's this bolt right here if it wasn't in the shot. I think it was. All right. All right, so like I said, I'm going to put just a little bit of Loctite on here. I'm going to slide it in the hole. And go ahead and start that bolt. Now, let me talk to you about this bolt. It does have a torque spec. The torque spec for this bolt is 27 pounds-foot. If you don't like to torque things, You can do it RFT, really freaking tight, or German tight, good and tight. But I like to torque my bolts down, but not everybody can afford a torque wrench. So like I said, 27 foot-pounds for that bolt. Like I said, let's go ahead and torque it down. Just like that. Uh-oh. Just like that. All right, now for the cleaning up. All right, so what we're gonna do, just take a razor. Let's go ahead and clean this up as good as we can. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a little bit of coker cloth or soft sandpaper. And I like to get a little bit more of it off if I can. What I'm not going to do is make you sit through this whole process. All right, now we got this all cleaned up. I got the inside of the cover cleaned up. Put the new gasket on. What I'm going to go ahead and do is grab one of these bolts here. Put it through one side of this gasket. Keep it lined up. Go ahead and start it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start all of my bolts all the way around here without tightening any of them. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that that's what I do on every job. The reason for that is if you tighten one of these up without having all the rest of them started, nothing's going to line up. So I'm going to go ahead and install them. Just like this. You ever seen those videos where there's like eggs that need to be beaten or butter that needs to be melted or something like that, and somebody snaps and then it comes back and it's done? Yeah. Where's that app at? I got a bunch of jobs that'd be good for. Let me snap and come back and be done. Make a good living that way. All right, so I ran these all the way up. Now I'm gonna torque them. Torque spec is 30 pounds foot. So let's go ahead and torque them down. You can torque them down, or like I said, real freaking tight, RFT or German tight, Guten tight. I don't know why it's so much fun to say that. Go ahead and say it with me. Guten tight. Anybody that just said it, just know that some weird internet guy just got you to say a word out loud. Guten tight. Still fun to say. All right, 30 pounds foot. Time to clean it. And it's ugly again. All right, so on the other side of the rear end, there's a little bolt, I guess that's what you call it, plug. Right there, what we're gonna do is go ahead and stick a extension in it, break it loose. This is where we're gonna fill the rear end. Right here. All right, to fill this, it's 2.12 quarts. We're just gonna take 75/90 synthetic gear oil. Gonna stick it in the hole, fill it up. Like I said, it says the fill is 2.12 of these, so you need to go ahead and buy 3. And the way that you can test this to see if it's full, so after you put it in there, take your pinky, stick it in, and just curve your pinky down. And if it's on the tip of your pinky, that means it's full. All right, so it's full. I'm gonna go ahead and put my plug back in. Probably would have been better to do this with a ratchet, but just like that. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and install my rotor, just like that. Install my caliper. Go ahead and install my caliper bolts. Tighten them down. Again, once we get this on the ground, pump the brakes. Pump the brakes, pump the brakes, pump the brakes. And you are almost done. 2 things left to do. Pump the brakes, pump the brakes, pump the brakes. Please pump the brakes, don't get hurt and don't hurt somebody else. Next, go to my cousin's channel, Fintertainment, like and subscribe. While you're doing that, go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel too. I'd really appreciate it. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And as always, if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe. Thanks again for watching. Now, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to ask you to like my video or subscribe to my channel. I'm the kind of guy that's going to beg you to do it. Click one of these other videos. Subscribe to my channel. It's on one of these sides. Do them both. Do them all. Please!